Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Refuge from Narcissism, and this refugee video is sponsored by contribution from Jessica, and here's her story. Ollie, the last video you did for me was titled, Stop Trying to Get Someone's Narcissistic Garbage to Love You. Thank you again for that video and for the comments of your viewers. Even your own story has helped me so much in my continued journey of healing. I see now how my first marriage was a subconscious way of escaping the abuse that was going on in my family, and also an attempt at getting the approval and pride from my parents, especially my father. My father was very angry earlier in life. His rage colored my childhood. When I look back, it's pretty much all I can remember. He did have moments where he wasn't angry, but for me, I learned to become hypervigilant. I'd be on edge all the time, wondering when his next explosion of anger would happen, reading his tone, his facial expressions, and body language, and feeling like his anger was my fault and that it was my responsibility to keep the peace and have some kind of control over the emotional atmosphere of our family home. He was, I guess, either controlling or had OCD. We started doing chores at an early age, but I have many memories of my dad coming behind me and undoing the chores I did and making me stand and watch as he redid them while telling me I had done them wrong and showing me the correct way of doing them. This was with mopping, cleaning out the dish rag, loading the dishwasher, etc. This is a boomer tactic, and I'm assuming your father is a boomer, based on the rage, okay, the walking on eggshells, and this need to undermine everything you do, and then to stand there on fucking trial, because again, the boomer loves to put you on fucking trial. Now you're going to stand there as I martyr myself, okay, over mopping the floor, over dishes that were already done correctly. My brother recently reminded me my dad had actually drawn out a diagram of how to load the dishwasher and had taped it on the inside of the cabinet for us to reference. He never said things like, "Thank you for doing the dishes, but I want to show you a better way to do them so the dishes get cleaned better." No, it was, "You did it wrong. I'm angry, and you're going to stand here and watch me undo your work and redo it the correct way." It left me feeling stupid, like I was defective and couldn't do anything right. Yeah, and that's the point is this to get you to give up, is to give up trying at anything. Even though they're making you do it, they're making you go through these exercises so they can fucking break you emotionally. This is a boomer tactic. So you'll never be good enough. So they can hold you down and make you believe you'll never be better than them. This is training that they do to their children early on. They're training you early on because they're jealous of you then. They're training you early on. Nothing you do is right or good enough. I can always do it better. That's the boomer. That's the boomer. That's them then. That's them now. That's them in the future until the last one walks the earth. I'm better than you. It left me feeling stupid, like I was defective and couldn't do anything right, which is what the point is. Which is what the point is. It's to leave you feeling defective to them. It's all about sitting on that high horse with these boomers. It's all about them being able to look down their nose at you. Gen Xers got the worst of this behavior from them. The worst of it. This has followed me into adulthood, and my ex did this kind of thing as well. If my brothers and I messed up, my father would knock our heads really hard with his fist, drag us into the other room by our ears, and even spanked us with a leather belt. He was scary as shit. The disciplinary act of spanking I'm okay with. But he would spank me while he was really angry, leave me in my room crying my eyes out. He never returned and sat with me, comforted me, and explained to me that I wasn't a bad kid, just did a bad thing or disobeyed you. Right, because he's not beating you to correct you. He's beating you to break you. He wants you to believe you're a bad kid. They want you to believe you're defective. The fucking boomer sets that up with their children. They train you to believe you're defective. That's why so many of us are here. That's what the narcissist does. The baby boomer is just riddled with sociopathic narcissism. The entire generation. So they've been able to do this societally. That's why there's so many of us fucked up who suffered in silence and didn't realize how many more of us there really were. There really are out there that dealt with the exact same bullshit. He never assured me of his love, which is a gaping hole of question in my mind. Did he love me? Fuck no. They don't love anybody but themselves. It didn't feel like it. I felt like I was just the bane of his existence. You can see how, as a child, I began to think that I was the sole reason for his rage. Right, and they always blame you. The boomer always blames you. My parents blame me for all their all their problems. It was all because of me. This is what they would tell me. Or more like my mother would tell me. That all their problems are because of me. My father wouldn't deny it. He'd let her say it. Till I went to their therapist, like, no, your father's got it's not you. I never believed it anyway. I never believed it. I knew they were lying when they were saying it to me. It's just you can't get them to admit it. But once I had the other therapist admit it, as I've been healing these past 2.5 years after leaving a 14-year-long marriage with a covert ex-narc, I've had to do some hard looking at my childhood, and I've been asking myself, is my father a covert narc? No, it's pretty overt to me. It's an overt narc. He's beating you, dragging you around. No, that's not covert narcissism. That's overt narcissism. He's just an overt asshole. He's a fucking asshole. He's a fucking typical baby boomer grandstanding fucking overt asshole. Nothing covert about this dude. In light of this question, so many things have been clicking into place. Things that never made sense to me regarding my father's actions are now making sense. Why did I choose such an asshole for a husband? Why didn't I see the red flags and run for the hills? It's because being screamed at, being emotionally and physically neglected were my normal. I've realized that the picture of my father I had in my head all this time, the caring, giving, attentive, loving Christian father, wasn't a reality. Why would it be? Where was any of that in your life? Why would that be a reality? No, you think it's a reality. You think all that because you think you're defective. You think that because you think you're defective because that's what the boomer does. Because the boomer has to fucking reside on his high horse. How in the world did we get here, clinging to a fantasy of who our parents are and not seeing the reality of what they are and what they do, because you think you're defective, because you were forced to stand there as a child like, I can't even wash a dish properly. So if you think you're defective and you can't see these things that are fucking wrong with you, okay, of course you're gonna buy into your father's just loving content, like you don't understand what reality is because you think you're defective, and you're not. That's not the reality. You may be defective now, but not defective in the way you've been accused of being defective. You're defective now emotionally. You're defective in your ability to progress and to get past this. Yeah, you're defective there. They're making you think you're defective in your morals, in your abilities. They make you think you're defective in your ability to think. You're defective in your comparison to them. They want you defective, but in a way that you don't even understand. You think you're defective because you're this bad, awful person that you can't see, but everybody else can. When you're really just defective because you're broken. You're broken emotionally. You're broken spiritually. Your will is broken. Your self-esteem is broken. Your image of yourself is broken. So that's why you have an incorrect image of your father. You think this is covert narcissism. This is overt narcissism. Remember where we are. Look where we are now in society. Up is down, black is white, the sky is pink. It is what it is. You identify with whatever you identify with. This is where we are. This is the world the boomers have created. There is no reality anymore. Don't you get it? It's the same thing I did with the ex-narc. I concocted this idea of who he really was under his rage and kept waiting for that man to come forward, and he never did. Same with my father. My father never complimented me, really. I think I can count on one hand the times he had paid me a compliment or encouraged me. Now I see why I would react shocked and not know how to respond when it did happen. I can remember more critical and discouraging comments from him from my childhood and early adulthood. I've struggled my whole life with low self-esteem, low self-worth, and didn't know why. Well, I just told you why. Just told you why. I grew up learning how to be codependent and fell into this role with my family of always saying yes, always seeking out the opinions of my father instead of making decisions based on my own opinions or wants. I was terrified to make my own decisions, terrified of making a mistake. Boy, if that doesn't sum up Gen X. I wanted to share with you a few instances with my father and ask your opinion on if you think he's a covert narc or not, and can a covert narc sometimes display overt narcissism? It's all overt narcissism. It's all overt narcissism with this guy. First of all, when I finally found my self-worth to get out of my marriage, my father tried to guilt me and shame me into going back to work with the ex. Of course he did. Because your father knew you married another version of him and was going to keep your fucking self-esteem and self-worth down. He always the baby boomer wants to keep you down for life. for life. He claimed I was leaving the ex high and dry. This made no sense to me, and now looking back on it, it made me so incredibly angry. What about your daughter? What about the abuse she just removed herself from, which took some serious courage and strength to do, considering she was terrified of him? And you want her to go back into that shit? What the fuck? And high and dry? Excuse me. I could go on and on about how this piece of crap husband left me high and dry for years with his sexual abuse and neglect, financial abuse, etc., and threatened me, which was my green light to get the hell out. I dismissed his suggestion and stayed away from the ex and the business, but guess what? My father continued to work for him, so he even had a financial interest in it. Typical boomer. There's nothing covert about this guy. There's nothing covert about him. My father continued to work for him. Now, at the time, I painted it as my father keeping an eye on my ex for me knowing the business was still ours. But really, what was really going on? When the ex abandoned the business, he left and didn't pay my dad for 3 weeks of pay, and my dad just shrugged it off. Right, what's 3 weeks? What's 3 weeks of pay for your self-worth being in the fucking toilet? That ain't nothing. That ain't nothing to him. 3 weeks pay for Jessica to feel like shit at the end is to feel like a bigger piece of garbage? Hey, that's worth it. Just shrug it off. He knows. I saw it as gracious and forgiving on his part. Even some of my siblings think it was shitty that our father stayed and worked in the store with my ex. Yeah, did any of your siblings call him on it? Let me ask you that. Or do they just tell you, oh yeah, that's real shitty. Yeah, okay. Did you tell him that? Did you tell him that you shouldn't be doing that? Did any of them stand up for you? No? A year previously, when I was living with my mom and dad after I left the ex, I was sitting down for dinner with my father, mother, and my 18-year-old nephew, and the subject of taxes came up. I mentioned that I had read someplace that collecting income tax was not legal, and my dad flipped and went off on me. I wasn't saying for sure that this theory was true. I was just talking, and he humiliated me. I excused myself from the table to go upstairs and to my room because I was mad. And you see, I could already see where this is going. Now he's probably gonna to switch the tactic, okay, of the mockery. Okay, of the mockery, of the making fun of you, of never letting it fucking go. You're bringing up something like you don't know, you're just bringing up dinner conversation. And now here he goes. Sounds so much like my father. He sounds so much like me, your father. So much like me. So much like him. I wasn't sure if this theory was true. I was just talking, and then he humiliated me. I excused myself from the table to go upstairs to my room because I was mad, and as I was climbing the stairs, he was laughing and mocking me for being angry. Fuck your face. Yeah, I got him. He's got to be a boomer. He's got to be. Who the hell laughs at their daughter knowing she is mad at them? He wrote me a letter later that night. He said, I'm a bit sorry. The whole letter was full of condescension, guilt, and shame. Of course. My father's another letter writer. My father. But he was sure to pepper in things like my precious daughter. He knows that I desire to be his precious daughter, and that him saying it to me because he knows I desire it is his way of getting away with being a complete asshole. And honestly, it worked. I saw these words from him and his non-apology, and I forgave him quick. I didn't even see all the covert insults in the letter until I found this letter a week ago. I've been brought up so scared of confrontation and anger that I want a resolution quickly and sweep anything else under the rug. At Thanksgiving, my husband and I went to my parents for a visit. This is a new husband, I'm assuming. The first night we were there, my parents had made spaghetti. I hadn't noticed this because it had been so normalized in my family, but my dad always fixes his plate first. It completely embarrasses my mom. She believes, as the host, they should serve themselves last. My father doesn't abide by this rule, so my dad fixes his plate, and I was second to get up to fix mine. I look in the bowl of spaghetti sauce, and there's hardly any left. I exclaim, "Dad, you hardly left any sauce for the rest of us." I didn't say it angrily. I was shocked. You should have said it angrily, you fucking child. What the fuck is wrong with you? That's something you would expect a child to do. The fat kid to do. That's a fucking another boomer. Oh, I eat before everyone else, and boomers, man. My dad had already sat down with his plate of noodles and sauce heaping full. He kind of giggled like a little kid and happily wiggled in his chair and continued to mix the sauce with his noodles and cut it up, season it. I would have taken if your mother had any fucking sense, she should have taken the plate, dumped it back in, said, "Oh, thanks for saucing and seasoning. Now everybody else can have some." I was just dumbfounded and my mom was pissed. My dad went to pray and sort of gestured for us to hold up our hands, and my mom was glaring at him with her hands in her lap. My father continued to pray. What do you make of this? I make he's a fucking child and your mother should have stood up to him long ago. In December, I texted my mom to say my husband and I wanted to visit with them over the phone. After Thanksgiving, we had talked about how we wanted to stay in better connection with them, so this was her attempt to do that. Why? For some reason, my mom got the idea in her head that we might be calling to ask for money. She relayed this thought to my father, and he took it, ran with it as if it were true. Instead of calling and asking us directly if we were calling about money, he calls and barges into the whole diatribe about his failing health, his bad hip, and he was talking so fast we couldn't even get a word in. Then he starts into his lecture about jobs and health insurance and sort of bragging about all the jobs he's had at times. 3 jobs at once. My husband and I are sitting here listening to this, not knowing what the hell is going on. Why is that? Why is he talking about this? Then it came together for both of us like he was trying to guilt and shame us in a roundabout way regarding us both having part-time jobs right now. Let me say this. He had an issue with me having a part-time job for the year I lived with him as well. I was dealing with really bad CPTSD. I was still living in the town the ex lived in, and I wasn't sure what he was capable of. I had nightmares about him coming over and slashing our tires or setting our house on fire. My parents wouldn't stop slamming the front door or the cupboards or the microwave when I had told them countless times what was happening in my body when they did so. The dumping of adrenaline in my bloodstream, literally jumping out of my skin every single time. And I was in the process of digging through all the shit I had just gotten out of. And if I had gotten a full-time job, I would have had left time to heal. I know the old me. I spent years working my ass off with my abuser, and work had become a distraction to the reality I was living in. A distraction from the severe pain I was enduring emotionally and physically. I numbed myself at work. I didn't want to do that again. So my dad was going on and on about himself, and when he paused, I fell into explaining what we were currently doing, which was in fact looking for full-time jobs and what our goals are, and he came out and called me part-time Jess, and then asked incredulously, "Have you ever had a full-time job?" I was shocked. Didn't he work for you? Like at one point you worked for you. Fucking boomers. I was shocked, and then I laughed uncontrollably due to being pissed and exclaimed that I have owned the business. I have the business I own and ran for 8 years that I worked 60 hours a week at. The business he worked at. Yeah, exactly. Then I began listing off other full-time jobs. There you go, trying to validate yourself to the boomer. Trying to validate yourself to the boomer. You can't validate yourself to these pieces of shit. It wants you to think you're defective. And it's on your mother, too, for going and twerking them up. Then I began listing off other full-time jobs I've had in my past. I was so angry, Ollie, I thought my head was going to explode off my neck. I told my father that this whole conversation would have gone a lot better if he just would have come to the table with some encouragement. There was no encouragement. That's never going to happen, Jess. It's never going to happen. You want blood from a stone here. It ain't happening. There was no encouragement. And you know what he did? He backpedaled and said some encouraging things to both of us that fell so incredibly flat and seemed insincere considering he had just mentioned there was none. The phone conversation ended awkwardly, and my husband and I talked about how weird the whole thing was. I emailed my parents that night and said that phone conversation was weird and not okay, and that the topic of money, jobs, insurance, benefits were off the table of discussion unless I brought it up. My mother you shouldn't even be bringing it up yourself. Don't bring it up. I emailed my parents that night and said, okay. My mother called later and I let it go to voicemail. I spoke with her the next day, and she was mad at my dad. Right, it's all she ever is mad at your dad, but she never actually does anything, does she? Oh, I'm mad. He acts like a fucking asshole. He's beating the shit out of you. Where was she when he was beating the shit out of you, by the way? Where was she? Don't buy her boomer bullshit either. The boomer enabler. Please. She's just as guilty, Jess. She's mad. And stop accepting their fucking crumbs. Oh, well, mom's mad. So what? I spoke to her the next day and she was mad at my dad. She explained to me what she thought before the call, that we might be calling to ask to borrow money, and I believe she wanted to have a discussion with her husband about it and how they would respond as a team, but my dad flew off his rocker. Bullshit. Oh, bullshit, Jess. She didn't know how he would react after all these fucking years together. Fucking bullshit. Bullshit. She's setting you up. And then she plays, oh, I can't believe it. And you buy that? The whole phone conversation, where was she? Where was she while the conversation was going on? Why isn't she stopping it while it's going on? Why isn't she stopping your father from fucking taking all the food? Stop giving this woman a pass. Maybe she's the one fucking pulling the strings, Jess. Maybe it's your mother who's trying to destroy you, Jess. And just using your father to do it. The whole phone conversation when my dad was lecturing us, she remained silent. My dad, in known faction, he emailed an apology and said I was right, that he jumped to conclusions and made assumptions when he should have come out and asked questions first. It wasn't until weeks later that I realized how abusive his name-calling and questions were of me. Part-time Jeffs, have you ever had a full-time job? These words cut to my heart and made me realize it's the same exact abuse the ex doled out to me. My ex would constantly say, I do all the work alone, when I was standing right there 24/7 working with him. My father is refusing to see me correctly, refusing to acknowledge all I've done, all I've been through, and again, discouraging me. All I've wanted is for my father to be proud of me and believe in me. And I get this shit? Who the hell calls themselves a loving father and says these things to his daughter in front of her mom and new husband? Boomers. Baby boomers. Overt, narcissistic, gaping asshole baby boomers. That's who does that. As I've been listening to your videos as well as many others on covert narc fathers, I've been piecing together things, and so many light bulbs have been going off. So much is making sense in light of this new information. I found a beautiful picture of a bird flying out of a cage and imposed a quote over it saying, it's only when you decide that you are no longer attached to people who don't clearly see you that you will truly be free. I posted this picture on my Instagram. My father follows my IG account. I then used the picture of the bird in cage on my Facebook page as my banner, and my father commented this below the picture. And then she went smack right into the glass. Poor little birdie, with a bunch of sad emojis after it. You're gonna fail. Typical boomer fashion. You think this is covert narcissism? This is there's nothing covert about, that's overt narcissism. I saw this comment and was shocked. Does my father really want me to fail? Yep. And so does your mother. And so does your mother. A few of my friends saw his comment and were pissed. One friend asked if it's possible he was joking. Joking, really? That's really a dark joke and not funny at all. It feels like he's showing me who he really is. Maybe he's always been showing me, and I'm just in a healthier place to see it for what it is. Yeah, that's all it is. You can just see it now because you're not writing it. He's not right in your face. Because you have a different type of husband than you had in the past. You could see him for what he is. My husband and I dated for 2 years and just recently got married. My mom sent us a card and some money, but the rest of the family hasn't acknowledged our wedding at all. No card sent. We weren't expecting gifts because was both of our second marriages, but nothing. We posted an announcement and pictures of our wedding on Facebook and not a single comment from anyone in the family. Not one. Well, all they're telling you is they don't need to be in your life either. My father is always on Facebook scrolling, and commenting. He doesn't comment on our wedding post, but feels the need to comment on my picture and talk about me, the little birdie hitting the window glass. He hasn't even friended his new son-in-law. Do you think this is on purpose? Is my family trying to hurt me? Be happy. Why do you care? This is Facebook. Who cares? He's trying to hurt you. He's trying to make you feel inefficient. Why? Because he doesn't like your new husband. He doesn't like that your new husband doesn't abuse you the way your old husband and he did. Get ready for the attack on him. It's coming. It's coming. You better be ready to break contact with them real quick. During the year I lived with them, my parents were slamming doors, cabinets, microwave, etc., and I finally stormed out of the house and peeled out of the driveway in anger at their disregard. My father went around and put post-it notes on the microwave, every cabinet door, every door in the house, etc. At the time, I thought it was kind of loving for him to do this, to remind them not to slam them. No, he's mocking you. He's mocking you. Now I'm wondering if this was a way to mock me. Yeah, it was. Poor baby Jess who jumps at loud noises. Let's put all these bright post-it notes everywhere for everyone to see when they come over. And I'll get to embarrass her once again. Yeah, pretty much. Because I'm sure that's exactly how it went down, didn't it? Because if that didn't happen, okay, if that didn't happen, you wouldn't worry about it. Like, oh, well, that didn't happen. His insults and how he has been so normalized in our family that I don't think our family sees or registers it for what it is. It's always, that's just the way Dad is. Yeah, he's just a fucking asshole. Case in point, one of our really close family members came over for Thanksgiving in front of the whole family, company as well as her husband. My father insulted her. She had just recently told me of this memory, and I didn't even remember it happening, and she said no one reacted to it. She also said that if she cared about my father's opinion of her, she would have been devastated by what my father had said, but she wasn't, although she did file it away. As I told her about all this stuff that had happened with my dad recently, she confided in me that she has never trusted my father and that she feels he is always has been faking his surface persona. I felt like I sat in the lap of my father my entire life gazing up at him, begging him to tell me who I am, to find me, and he sure did. He had convinced me I was worthless, good for nothing, a failure, and that I could never count on him for help or safety. I'm happy to say that is over. Disengaging from this desire to have my dad see me, hear me, acknowledge my strengths, or acknowledge what I have been through, or how far I have come, and how much I have grown has really helped me. My mind is still going back and forth a little bit, what I'm seeing in my dad. It's so odd. It pisses me right off. Your channel is a huge part of my education and healing. Hopefully my story will resonate with someone. Thanks, Ali. I can't wait to hear your take on my father. If you see, he's a covert narc. He's 72, so that's a baby boomer. Of course he is. Of course he is. Thank you for your time and your channel. You're helping so many people. Sincerely, Jessica. Your father's not a covert narc. He's an overt narc. He's a boomer. He's a typical boomer, as is your mother. Typical boomer, set from your birth on making you think you're defective. That's it. That's why you think the way you do, because from childhood, your father trained you to believe that you're defective. You're not. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution and your story, Jess. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or you'd just like to make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Refuge from Narcissism. Take care.